prompt start to the evening's proceedings. Lovely. I'd like to begin tonight's proceedings, a book launch of William Farquhar in Singapore, Stepping Out from Raffles' Shadow. And I guess that's the kind of kernel of the evening and the presentations that we're going to be having ahead of us. I'd like to introduce myself, in case you're wondering who's this funny fellow standing up here doing all the emceeing work. My name's Gareth Richards. I was born on this little island many, many years ago. In fact, at a time when the causeway seemed a lot less than 1 mile long. It always seems much longer than that now. My particular reason for being the MC here tonight, I guess, is that the publishers, Entrepot Publishing, asked me to undertake this role since I was the editorial consultant for the book and worked very, very closely with the author Nadia Wright over several months and was intimately involved in helping to produce the book that you see tonight. So it's always lovely for me to come back to the place of my birth from another fair island, Penang. And I think it's quite appropriate in some ways that the personality of William Farquhar actually straddled the three Straits settlements. Of course, he found fame in his early career as the commandant and resident of Malacca. Later, as we'll be hearing here, as perhaps the co-founder of Singapore. But of course, for much of his life, he had to take orders from the fourth presidency of India, which of course was Penang. So we stole a march over you here in Singapore. A very warm welcome to all of you tonight for what is, I think, a celebration. Every book launch in some ways is a celebration, but also an occasion, I think, for engagement and for enlightenment. And so thank you for attending tonight, and I think it should be a very enjoyable as well as an enlightening occasion. And thanks also, I think, are in order to the National Museum of Singapore in particular, and it's highly appropriate. I mean, those of you who've just walked in through the main entrance would have walked through part of the Farquhar room, the Farquhar collection, and it is indeed the National Museum, back in the mid-1990s, that I think first gave public honour, public recognition to the name of William Farquhar. I'm sure it's something that Nadia herself will mention in her own presentation. Not least, of course, the magnificent collection of natural history paintings which Farquhar commissioned from Chinese artists and which were acquired thanks to the generosity of a patron, G.K. Go, and they're now here in the museum. But also, equally symbolic, I think, the famous silver epee, which was given to Farquhar when he left Singapore by the Chinese mercantile community. And that is also now has a place of honor. And it speaks to, let's say, something of a revision of the status of Farquhar that has undergone over perhaps the last 2 decades, and of which I think the book is a very eloquent testimony. I'd also like to thank publicly and ask you to welcome the 2 principals of the publishing house, Entrepot Publishing, based in the fair island of Penang, Marcus Langdon and also Keith Hopton, both authors in their own right. Marcus, some of you will know, is perhaps the leading author of Penang's early history, and indeed he and I have worked together on 2 volumes of his history of early Penang as the 4th presidency of India. So it's a very warm welcome to both of them. And it's also a very great honour, I was just asked to say this a few moments ago, to welcome a direct descendant of William Farquhar, sitting in the front row, just on my left here, Dr. Heather Lumsden, and it's a very great pleasure to have you and your family here this evening. And finally, of course, we should thank our three speakers tonight. I'll be saying much more about them when I introduce them before speaking. Here, immediately in front of me, we have Professor Tommy Coe, very, very well known to most of you, I would imagine. On his right, not immediately on his right, 2 or 3 paces down, is His Excellency Scott Whiteman, the United Kingdom High Commissioner to Singapore. And of course, on his right is the author, Nadia Wright. And I'll be introducing them in rather greater depth later on in the evening. At the end of proceedings this evening, we'll have a very nice celebration. There's refreshments at the back, and perhaps most importantly of all, of course, is that copies of the book, thanks to the Singapore distributor, Pen International, are available at the back, and I'm sure, Nadia, you'll go through the grave, onerous task of signing people's copies, and they're available at a very specially discounted price. I won't tell you what it is. The gentleman at the back may scold me if I do. Now, those are my few words of introduction, and I think it's entirely appropriate that we begin the proceedings